Hey everyone, and welcome to Epic Exploration. Today, we're going on an adventure into Zimbabwe's fight for freedom, the Second Chimurenga. We're going to look at the traditional weapons that brave Zimbabwean fighters used against a really strong army. Imagine this, you're facing an army with guns, tanks, and helicopters, and all you have are the tools your ancestors used to hunt lions and protect their homes. We're talking bows and arrows, spears, machetes, things you might see in an Indiana Jones movie. These weren't just weapons, they showed how much they wanted to resist, how proud they were of their culture, and how determined they were to be free. Let's go! First, let's talk about spears, or as we say in Shona, Zvibakera. Imagine, you're a freedom fighter, hiding in the Zimbabwean bush. It's hot and humid, and enemy patrols could be anywhere. These weren't ordinary spears. They were skillfully made, passed down through families, each one holding the stories of their ancestors. They had sharp iron tips, sometimes tipped with bone or even dipped in poison, attached to strong wooden handles. Imagine thick forests the enemy can't see far, and suddenly a spear flies out, taking them down quickly and quietly. These spears were perfect for surprise attacks, for fighting close up in the thick bush, and for making the enemy afraid. The Zvibakera wasn't just a weapon, it showed how brave, strong, and determined the Zimbabwean people were. Next up, the bow and arrow. These weren't toys, they were carefully made and often tipped with poison. Imagine, you're a Rhodesian soldier walking in the hot savannah. You think you're safe. But then, a silent arrow hits you. The freedom fighters knew the land and its secrets. They knew which plants, bugs, and animals had the strongest poisons, and they used that knowledge to make their arrows deadly. These poisoned arrows were perfect for guerrilla warfare. Silent, deadly, and very effective. They let the freedom fighters attack from the shadows, take down the enemy without being seen, and scare their enemies. Now let's talk about a tool that's good for many things, the machete or mapanga in Shona. This wasn't just for cutting plants. It showed how tough the freedom fighters were. It was always with them, and it was a surprisingly good weapon. Imagine, you're a freedom fighter, always moving, traveling through the thick forests and rough land of Zimbabwe. You need something to clear a path, build a shelter, make food, and protect yourself. That's where the machete comes in, the Swiss Army knife of the liberation struggle. These blades were very sharp, able to cut through vines, branches, and, well, let's just say they could take down an enemy soldier if needed. The machete was also great for sabotage. Need to stop a Rhodesian military vehicle? Slash its tires. The machete let the freedom fighters attack quickly, disappear into the bush, and cause a lot of trouble. Let's talk about axes and hatchets, the secret weapons of the Second Chimurenga. In any fight, getting supplies where they need to go is important. You need to keep your soldiers fed, your vehicles running, and be able to communicate. The freedom fighters knew this, and they used their knowledge of the land and their axes to cause problems for the Rhodesian army. Imagine, you're driving in a Rhodesian convoy, deep in enemy territory. Suddenly, you see a huge tree blocking the road. Your trucks stop, you can't get supplies, and you're easy targets. The freedom fighters used these tools to cut down trees, block roads, stop supplies, and make things hard for the Rhodesians. They also used axes and hatchets to damage things like bridges, railroads, and communication towers. Lastly, let's talk about the simplest weapon, the club, or nembe in Shona. You might be thinking, a club? Really? That's not much use against guns. And you'd be right, it doesn't sound like much. But this was a fight for survival, where being clever and adaptable was important. Clubs were everywhere. Need a weapon? Grab a strong branch, find a heavy rock, and you've got a club. Up close, a good hit from a club could break bones, crush skulls, and scare even the toughest soldier. The club was simple. It didn't need special training, complicated building, or special bullets. It was a weapon of the people, for anyone willing to fight for freedom. The club showed how tough the people were, how they wouldn't give up, and how they would fight for freedom with anything they could find. From spears to clubs, these weapons show how strong and determined the people were, how they fought for their freedom even when things were hard. They remind us that being brave and clever can help you overcome any challenge. The Second Chimurenga wasn't just about winning a war, it was about getting back their heritage, their identity, and a future without oppression. And these traditional weapons, used bravely and with determination, were a big part of that fight. If you liked learning about Zimbabwe's history, hit that like button, subscribe to Liberation Chronicles for more stories of resistance and liberation, And tell me in the comments what else you'd like to learn about the Second Chimurenga. Until next time, stay curious and remember.